APA format, MLA format, Chicago style, and chances are you're gonna go, what? At some point during high school or college, a teacher will probably say to you to write this paper in MLA or APA or Chicago or Harvard or whatever it is, YMCA, and you're probably going to sit there and go, what is that? So to avoid confusion about what you're getting into and what you need to look at, I'm going to be explaining a little bit about what we mean when we talk about formatting styles and formatting guides. For now, this is just an explanation on what they are when we are talking about them. So when you are asked to do Chicago style, you understand what that means. When you hear those acronyms, your teacher is not asking you to change anything in the assignment. These formatting guides refer to the presentation of your paper. It's how it looks. It's the wrapping, not what's inside the present. You don't change your paper, it's just the way you're presenting it. We have these different formatting guides because different types of paper and different fields and subjects require different things. They prioritize different types of information. So the presentation of that information helps it be the most effective matter for that one. I'm mostly going to be talking about the three main style guides, APA, MLA, and Chicago. Those are the ones most commonly used in America. So those are the ones I'm using in this discussion. But if you want, I can go more in depth into others as well. That's not in this video though, so I don't know why I'm talking about it. There are two main parts to a format. The first of which is how it deals with citations and quotes. Whenever you cite a source, meaning whenever you are paraphrasing, directly quoting, or summarizing information from somewhere else, you have to give credit to that person. So that format guide dictates how you're giving credit to that person. Oftentimes there's an in-text citation and a reference page citation, but that varies depending on the style guide. So that's something that will change when you quote. It won't change the information you're saying or the content or the meaning it has in the paper. It just changes the presentation of your cited information. The second main part that a style guide dictates is the actual look of the paper, the logistics. What size font can you use? How big are the margins? Double space? What type of fonts you can use? This also determines how you write your name, the title. If this is for a school paper, this dictates whether you need the class, the professor, or the school's name on there, a due date, page number. It deals with the logisticals of how your paper is formatted. Again, this doesn't change the content. This doesn't change how you're writing the paper. It just changes the look of it. I mentioned the big three citations that are typically used, so I'm just briefly talking about some main points as an example. So with MLA, MLA is the Modern Language Association. This is typically used in the humanities. MLA is really simple. You have a basic header, page number in the top right corner. MLA I find to be the simplest one. It's very easy to follow. It doesn't need a lot of particulars. For example, it doesn't really matter when Shakespeare wrote Shakespeare, it's still Shakespeare. So including the year up front is not going to really change how relevant your information is. If you're in the sciences or psychology, you probably are familiar with this one, the American Psychological Association, or APA. This I consider to be the fraternal twin to MLA. It's very similar. There's a lot of the same information, but it's presented differently. Like I mentioned, MLA does an emphasis on year, but APA does very much. If you're discussing an article about breast cancer research, whether or not that article came out in 1950 or 2015, it's going to make a huge difference for that information. So that's why they prioritize year often with their format. They also have a title page and something called a running head. So that will look a little bit different than your MLA. There may be even a business class that occasionally requires you to use APA. APA is a little bit more rigid than MLA, so be mindful of this when you're looking at the formats. Last, but certainly not least, is Chicago. Chicago style, it's also called turban style. It's a few different names for it. This is the other one that's used. If MLA and APA are twins, Chicago is the cousin that visits occasionally. You can see they're related, but they do things very differently. Chicago can be used in business, but it's more often found in history. Their look is similar to APA. They'll have a title page, but they do their citations completely different from MLA and APA. You have the option of doing a footnote or an endnote, and it can seem very overwhelming when you're looking at the citation, or any of them for that matter, if you're looking at it for the first time. But the important thing to know, this isn't changing how you're writing your paper. It's changing your presentation. It changes what you call that last page that lists what you use in your paper. So when you're quoting and you are having that long citation at the end, that page, it might be called a reference page, a bibliography, a works cited page. And what it's called is dependent on the format guide you're using. It doesn't change what it is. They're all essentially the same thing. They just look a little bit different. Yes, it's scary the first time you do it, but it's not something to be afraid of. The only thing that gets tricky about them is every couple of years, these formatting guides update. So you want to make sure you're always looking at the most updated version. Like I said earlier, I'm going more in depth on the current formats for each of these style guides. So I'll link those videos below as I start to make them. I post videos twice a week. If you have questions about specific academic questions, writing style formats, let me know. It's my job to know and to explain it. So I'd be happy to help. I'll see you guys next time.